Welcome back to the podcast. Today we have an amazing guest, Damien Malone. He is the founder and CEO of Malone Accountants. Damian has been a massive part of the success in my business, so I'm delighted to have him on today. He shares insights on what we should be doing to scale and succeed in our business. Hope you enjoy. Damian, thanks so much for coming in. I am so excited to have you on.
Thanks for having me, Sharon.
Brilliant. So look, we'll start a little bit about yourself and how you started your business. That's what we generally do. So get a feel for who you are and what you do.
Yep. Well, look, I'm a practicing accountant, an auditor and a tax advisor. I officially got my certificates and registrations and all of that back in the recessionary times when I was, let's call it, moonlighting.
Yeah.
So I was obviously a senior manager or whatever. I only ever had one job and got all the licenses and my auditor status and all of that. But I didn't set up my own until it's nearly 11 years. So the summer of 2014.
And did you know you wanted your own business?
Yes.
Always.
Yeah.
Were your parents entrepreneurs?
No, not at all. And totally discouraged me from every entrepreneurial decision I ever made. Totally discouraged me from it. And still to this day would freak out anytime I have a think about or I share my thoughts or whatever.
Really?
Yeah.
It's gassy. You just had that in you. I did too. I always kind of knew.
I didn't always have it in me. It came with the work when I got good at the work and when I got, good with clients and that sort of thing. And I only ever had one job, as I say, in practice. I had a couple of jobs before that. One in accounting didn't work out very well for me when I was very young. Wasn't a great academic, so I wasn't blessed with.
Were you not, Damien?
No, not at all. No.
But good with numbers. Or were you just a messer in school?
I was always good with numbers. I was a little bit of a messer. I didn't really apply myself well in school or in college. And really, I suppose, the turning point probably was finding the role I found in practice and finding someone who believed in me. That was really it, because I applied for plenty of jobs in practice in the early days. Some of those who applied for jobs with, I actually do work with them now on a cross-client arrangement, and I have a laugh and a joke with them to say that, look, you probably don't remember me, but you didn't employ me. And I've taken quite a few clients off some of them as well. So, so that was it. I picked the work up very quickly. I was very loyal to that firm, and they were very good to me. They had a client base and workload that really kind of suited me, and I got great exposure to everything. I'm a tax advisor as well, so I did all that through them, and I could have stayed there, and the kind of heart was kind of telling me to stay, but the head was telling me to go. But it took me from 2007 to 2014 to amass about 40 grand of fee income. And I had enough at that point to pay my negative equity mortgage and keep the bread on the table. And when I set up and left them, I was in a little room like this here on the main street in Racool. And we very quickly moved into a second room, and it got to a point then where there was, I think, 6 of us in the little small room, and we moved down the road to Inishkara. And that was really, when I branched out on my own, I suppose things have gone very well since.
And what do you think it is, Damien, that made you successful? What was it that, you can see, I see people starting off, it doesn't work. They start off maybe just 1 or 2 clients, but you grew very quickly. Was it your level of skill and what you were giving to your clients, your ability to sell, or a mix of everything?
Probably a mix of everything, and probably a fair bit of obsession. So I was obsessed by practice, strange and all as that may sound. But it just I just feel such an attachment to the practice and to the business and to the clients and to the team and all of that.
It's hard to detach yourself.
It is, yeah. And I suppose just the will, and obviously then it does help when you, when you can actually see it and it's very tangible, the reward that is in it, and the, I suppose the sense of appreciation from
clients,
and not just like lots of clients and lots of clients who I've also learned a lot from myself and all
absolutely,
of that, like,
yeah.
And so just I suppose the will that was there to succeed. That's really what it
drove
was.
you.
Yeah.
And we talked a lot because we have a lot of guests on. We'll get into the nitty gritty, but what, like, I do you think you can be successful in business if you don't work that hard? Like, I know you worked very hard to the point where you were like, I'm nearly doing too much.
Yeah. It's most of the very successful people and like very wealthy people that I would work for, like, they all have a really like strong work ethic. So it's not impossible. It's really dependent on, I suppose, the type of sector and the timing. Timing is everything in life.
Yeah.
But I think if anyone has the work ethic, I don't care what anyone tells me. Like, it's easy to be a millionaire. You just have to work 80 hours a week. You cannot not be a millionaire unless you just can't, because that, if over the course of time of your life, doesn't matter what industry or what sector you're in, that's it. You just can't, it's not possible to not. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're exposed to loads of different businesses. So there's two things I really wanted to talk about today. One is we'll do a little bit. I kind of do a little bit on startups, okay? Because some people maybe that are listening are in the startup, but I really want to focus on that scale in the business. And I'm going to selfishly ask you questions that I need in my business answered, because if I need them, I'm sure everybody else does. So when you're you have, I suppose, a broad book of clients, and you see under the bonnet of what they do, the good, the bad, and the ugly. What do you think is the biggest mistake startups make when it comes to finances?
Probably the same mistakes I made in the early days, being too conservative, far too conservative. And that came from the parenting thing of trying to always be discouraged and being so risk adverse, and probably not taking more of a chance. Like, if they believe in what they're doing and they believe in themselves, like, back yourself. The finance and debt isn't a bad thing. I don't think it's only a bad thing if you can't afford it and you're reckless in your decision making and your assessment of whether debt finances
should I be taking it? Can I afford to pay it back?
Yeah.
What does that look like?
Exactly. Yeah.
And do you think that there's a gap where people don't understand their numbers?
Yeah, and that of course is the other thing in my profession, where I suppose, like, getting back to what you asked me earlier, like, there is a very obvious like big gap in the market, like, among, let's say, the SME advisory practitioners who are supposed to be the advisors to small business and all that. Like, so, our market demographics in my profession is probably in my favor as well.
Yeah.
And I would have always been very cognizant of that and alert to the goings on in the market and seeing, I suppose, and hearing the frustrations of, it's the same frustrations 10 years ago when I started
as it is now.
And I hear it every day of the week that we can't get the service. We ring, we email, they do the books, but we don't get any level of advice or anything like that. Like, so I suppose I've been very, like, a big thing with me has been the culture and getting the right culture and I suppose getting people who have a commercial head on their shoulders, not just from being able to put together a set of accounts in accordance with certain standards and doing tax returns in accordance with tax legislation, but being able to think and, offer their thoughts and offer directions that can actually help business owners in some meaningful way to give them, value more than just the actual sort of compliance kind of piece that they're working on.
Because I think if you just look what my experience, because I can talk about accountants because I'm not one. So my experience of them is they look at last year Last year's
It's all
gone,
historic.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I need to be looking forward to the next year. So if I made a loss last year, which thankfully I didn't, but if I made a loss last year, I want to know in month 3 where am I this year and what's our plan to rectify that. But accountants don't seem to want to give that advice. They just want to keep me good with the revenue. Now, I'm good with numbers, so I can understand it and I can look at it and I can analyse it. But some people can't. And I think that bit's really what's missing, Damien.
Yeah. And particularly in more startup situations or businesses that are more longer established, that maybe scale isn't their priority, but they're just not resourced really to have any kind of differing kind of way than with it, because to get more real-time information and to get better quality information, obviously it costs money.
Yeah.
And obviously with the ways of the world now and with the people challenges that's there and the scarcity of resource, it has just gotten harder and harder and harder for all. It's not just accountants, it's for all businesses.
Yeah.
So again, what we've tried to do is we've tried to really be, I suppose, to differentiate ourselves from the competitors in the market so that we're hopefully a much more attractive proposition for good staff and experienced people who can do this and who can, make clients like really feel like they're getting a better service than what's there, and that it's something different.
Yeah. And look, it's needed. There's no doubt about it. There's no point in me looking at 2024. It's done. It's over. I only might want to compare this year to last year, maybe in month 3 or month 4, but I want to be looking into the future. And I want guidance on that.
This is it as well. And solutions is a big thing. So a lot of accountants, they're good at spotting problems, and some are good at the solutions, but invariably I'd say there's more not than there would be that would be what I would consider to be anyway really strong solutions orientated practitioners.
And if you are training the staff, you see, if that's the culture in your business,
it becomes second nature to them after a while, because they're hearing it every
everybody
day,
else,
and
that's
it.
The way you do things there. So, and if we think about so startups maybe not taking risks, I suppose, and if they're not taking risks, Damien, it's probably because they've nobody to talk to about the risks, and that they're taking risks that are not silly. So they're looking, saying, is this the right way to go? I need to meet with my accountant. That's what I expected to happen.
For anyone that's starting a business, and it reminds me of the first time I met you. You have to surround yourself by people who know about business. Don't have to be accountants, but you have to have a network. You have to have a network, and you have to, like the word that they use now, like you have to hustle.
Yeah.
Do you know, there's no point starting a business and sitting in your office or sitting in your home waiting for the phone to ring or whatever. You have to have a marketing strategy. You have to invest in your own marketing, your own, brand awareness or whatever it is. And there's so much that you have to do and take it upon yourself to do. And there's no point feeling sorry for yourself if it doesn't work. You have to actually go and do it. But I do see, and I do think Ireland is there is a very strong entrepreneurial spirit in a lot of Irish people. I do see that. And we would have, obviously we've worked with some great and continue to do startup businesses that have gone right through from a one person operation to anything really, and very diverse people, plenty like myself, that weren't academically blessed and have taken and seized opportunities. And again, a lot of it I think comes down to people and picking the right people to work in your business.
And whether that's an outsourced resource or in your business. If you get somebody in to do your marketing, if you get somebody in, it's to be right for your business.
It is,
But we were talking earlier on as well, and I was saying you have to sort of understand what they should be doing in your business so you can ask questions. So if I haven't a clue and I bring a marketing person in, I don't know what they're doing. And you're thinking to yourself, are they doing a good job? Are they not? Am I setting metrics for them?
Exactly.
There has to be something in place. And I think for people starting out, because we'd see inside the books, we'd see the debt, we'd see the problems where they're not getting money in, or they're not invoicing properly, they're not getting invoices out. We can see things like that. But it's like they're so good at their craft, but they're not opening up their mind to all the other aspects
They're
of
falling
business.
short. Yeah.
And that's what needs to happen. And I think what Irish people have, I just touch on what you said there, we're able to talk to people. People like us, no matter where we go.
Yeah.
We have that kind of gift of the gab.
Yeah. And we have to use that.
Have to. Have to use it.
Yeah.
So when we're I'm going to the UK now. So we're looking at that market. We went over and put our toe in the water, met with them. Now we were received very well. I have to say, they loved us. Every meeting that we went to, they liked. So what advice would you give me, say, to prep my business to enter that new market?
I think you have to identify who it is you're going after, your I suppose your ideal customer base, because when you do go and like us, we can wear lots of hats and we can be everything to everyone, because every business really can use our services. But what I've learned is it is better to focus on more specific
sectors
and business profiles.
Okay.
So obviously for us and where we're at, we have we can service every level of the market bar public listed companies.
Okay.
So everything from there right down. And we would still have a very big client base of sole trader clients and micro company clients that are small one-person operators. But obviously for us now, we're trying to get after clients that will be falling off of the bigger internationally branded accountancy practices that don't have the same kind of relationship ethos style and the same kind of, I suppose, commercialization culture that we have internally, where it's very much transactional focused with them. Where you have traditional kind of multi-partners, intergenerational familial practices and all of that.
But yours is a relationship focused. So you're in partnership with your clients.
And in partnership with my team. And that's most important. So we have a very different structure than, we're not a conventional accountancy practice in the old partnership sense. And so I think that has served us very well to date. And with the moves we hope to make now in the short term for our next phase of growth that we hope is going to follow as well. And all of that obviously then feeds into you have to be able to attract the right profile and caliber of client. And like what your foray into the UK market, obviously probably half of our business comes from international sources. And that's probably a unique feature about our practice as well, in that we have such a large international client base as well that we're really doing everything for. And really that has all came about from, well, it started with my kind of training and my background, and I was exposed to a lot of that. But following from there, it's really positioning myself we've relationships with accountancy practices, with legal practices, with corporate service providers all over the world, through one thing or another.
And Damien, how did you get those connections and the contacts?
The different opportunities came about. We're members of a number of different international networks. We obviously we're fairly strong on the old Google box and SEO and all that. And we invest a lot of money in that, and that does bring them to the door as well. And you do a good job for them on one client, and they thank you again for the next.
And I think that's the key. And if you do a good job, if you honour what you say you're going to honour, and you do a good job for someone, it sells itself. Because if you have a great marketing strategy and you have a team doing this, but you can't fulfill what you say you're going to,
it's no good.
So happy customers. Your team, as you said, focused on what you want them focused on, doing things differently. That's the culture. Then you get 2 UK clients, suddenly 4, 6, 8, 10. Because they're going to recommend you to other people. They're going to
the name spreads. The name spreads. So that's been very beneficial for us. And I still think we're, to a large extent, we're only tipping the iceberg sort of thing, with the potential that's there, because Ireland is a hub for lots of different types of international business that ends up here, and it's been very good to us. And we've had, we've very significant growth really across all our divisions internally. So we do bookkeeping, VAT and payroll, we do accounting, we do audit, we've a tax department, and we've a corporate service department.
Wow.
So they all do well from the private client FDI
And do you run
stuff.
them separately as separate little divisions in your business?
Not really. We have the audit separate it just suits for regulatory reasons.
Yeah.
We have part of our corporate business, our corporate service business, separately, and that's because we trade that under different brand.
Okay.
And then we've everything else then combined. So that's the way the way the service arm of our group is structured.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
So, and it's grown then from strength to strength, Damien. What do you think? So, you know, when you get to this stage where you're starting to scale, you're starting to take on staff, you're starting to grow out the business. I know that you've taken on a couple of different roles in the business. When I'm thinking about building out my management team, so starting me, we're getting to the stage now where I'm at that, where I need to probably take on somebody to manage the day-to-day stuff. What advice would you give business people saying, right, when we're getting ready to scale? Did you do something in your business where you took someone on?
Did lots of things. What I always do when I feel there is a gap or where there is some kind of unnecessary stress or pressure getting into the operational side of it, try and think like, started with me, what am I actually doing here, and what should I not be doing, and then try and create the role around that, and likewise then to try and identify the weaknesses and the gaps there, and where and like what we've been really good at is we build roles to suit good people. So when I get it, like every day of the week, like recruiters like are obviously trying to sell us candidates and one thing or another, and they always ask like, what's your job spec? What's your salary range? And we don't have any of that, like, because we find good people and we find roles to suit people. That's the way I've done it, like all along, like.
Brilliant.
Like we do some advertising kind of gimmicks, like to try and attract people in, but invariably it's really down to the person, and we assess their skill set, their experience, and most importantly their personality and their people skills, the first impressions. That's a big thing with me and like with clients. And and we build the roles to suit them, and that's at all levels.
Really nice, because
that's in all levels of our business. Yeah.
Really nice, because then they feel they're utilising their skills best.
Yeah,
they're going to really enjoy their job. They're going to stay with you, and they're going to perform very well.
Yeah, look, it has worked well. We've got really a lot better at our recruitment. We probably were always ahead of the game at it, but like in life, not everything does work out. But we've got so much right over the last few years. Like it's like that's a very positive thing. And at this moment in time, I do have a queue outside our front door waiting to come into the practice from all the work that we like do on a people sourcing or talent sourcing, as they call it.
Okay, so you've plenty of people to take. That's unusual in this market.
We're blessed.
Very good.
Blessed. Yeah,
very
and
good.
It's really, and none of that is really down to me. It's down to our wider support team in the office, who have kind of the strategies and kind of the optics that's kind of there with all that, like to make kind of people think, like, who are in the marketplace. And obviously the other thing in our industry is there's been a huge amount of change in it over the last 2 years, like really with like all of this private equity money that's ended up in control of Irish accounting practices, and the pressure that would bring into workplaces and all of that. So that has been advantageous for us as well, because that's not us, and it's not going to be us, and we're going to just stick to what it's always been and what we do, and are very much client-centered, entrepreneurial kind of approach, where it's really where there's enthusiasm and energy when you hear the wins and the client successes, and that's like that's 10 a penny in our office every day, and we're blessed with that, with the house,
because it kind of gives you a buzz when you see one of your clients succeeding.
And you see that we're just so lucky like that. We've had just a constant run. Like we've always been able to improve the caliber of the team, like the overall net strength of the team. That has always been improved on a very kind of steady upward trajectory. And the same with the clients. We've always, been able to consistently attract good quality, clients that have, strong need for
businesses.
service. If it's not at least annually and plenty, then that's that's monthly or even weekly.
And you see them growing, and I always know that you're always looking to be a step ahead on loads of different things, Damien. I know that, and you helped me so much in the business. I remember you helped me with my price structure on day one, stuff I hadn't even thought of. I just met you for a coffee and suddenly I had loads of ideas back, and it just started to help me to, really grow the business, but grow the business where I had a strong financial, back. And I was like, this just makes sense. And you were like, no, you need to get a retainer and this, and it was just like, it changed my business and it really helped me get going. I always keep an eye on you to see what you're doing, because I'm like, he's like 20 steps ahead of me, but I can see, where do you get the ideas for making change and thinking of new markets and being different than everybody else? Is it just that you're in bed at night? Or is it just the people you surround yourself with?
I don't know. It's definitely not my own initiative anyway. It's seen. We have invested a lot. Like I've invested a lot in myself, like in seeing, like in particular, like what's done outside of Ireland, because we're just so small and we are backward and behind in so many ways, in particular to America, even the UK and these places. So I've invested a lot in both in terms of money and time in just trying to be as progressive as possible and to try and just it's the constant strive for, I suppose, improvement and to, client service delivery and anticipation. So that's definitely been something that, like, as a whole, our practice, like trying to anticipate client needs and what the clients are going to need. So
what about COVID? What was that like? How did that impact your business? Did it improve it? Did it? Because it was challenges.
We've always been fairly steady. We had a little bump for, like, I think everyone did around that time with COVID. Didn't really impact. And in fairness, I think the measures that the government brought in, I think they have to be commended. I think subsequently there's probably one or two abuse cases knocking about where it's questionable about the merits of it, but they literally like shoveled money into businesses like at the time when it was needed. So it's to be commended. And what I would see is I think there's more money. Irish business owners, there's more money in their business now than there ever was. And I remember, I go back as far as 2001, 2002. So I was in practice when, like, the boom, let's say, was getting going. It does feel to me like there is actually more money out there now, more liquidity in most businesses. Obviously, you have retailers and hospitality is harder. But and I think, like, part of that it is the measures that were brought in around COVID.
Yeah,
and
it did
that.
help.
So
it helped
we're very lucky. I'm not going to give us the kiss of death and say we're a recession-proof business, but we're probably as close to a recession-proof business as possible, because our services are always going to be needed in recessionary times or good times. So no, we were very lucky. There's nothing, one or two little kind of things on the people front that I found challenging at that point and point in time.
We all had to shift, and people were working from home, and it was tricky. It was tricky.
Well, I always had that. So
did you?
When I started out, and it was hard then to try and attract good people.
Yeah,
especially
when you're a startup.
I used to just let them do their own thing, come and go. And I found really team of really good people. Some of them are still with me to this day, and we just let them do their own thing. And you see, ours is the metrics in our game are very easy. It's the client satisfaction and obviously numbers. That's what it is.
Yeah, the work's done or it's not.
This is it. And you might be able to get a bit of cover for a week or a fortnight, but you're not going to be able to get a bit of cover for a month or 2 months. So it's very tangible. And we've an operating model and, I suppose, performance metrics around all that work well for us and seem to work well for the people that we've been able to you know, work very cohesively with and work very well
and support
with.
them then, I think, on the work-life balance. Because what I see with the team, I have a couple of people that are with me a long time, and I let them the same, but they will stay with you because they're like, look, I appreciate that he trusts me enough or she trusts me enough to be able to do all this, and I won't let them down, and they don't.
Yeah.
So there's a nice thing there. So if I was thinking about what I should be looking at in my business, what should I be measuring financially? Like cash flow is different than profit. Profit's different than...
It is. And cash flow and linking it to your business, and like you have to get the link between, there shouldn't be a big differentiation between the cash flow intake and the profitability, for sure. And if there is, that's a problem.
Yeah.
And that you have to tackle that first and foremost. And I've been there, because I, like, starting out, I would have done work for anyone.
Yeah, I know.
On any terms. And I would have done work, and I would have been doing tax returns, and I would have got paid for the tax returns the time I was doing the next year's tax return.
Yeah.
And while it all added up, and while I could afford to carry it, it's not really, it's not right. So you have to, and I think nowadays, I do think people are, and particularly in service businesses, like where there is credit lines and all that, like people are more on top of it. I do think, but obviously, like I don't really believe in, we've totally tried to transform like our payment arrangements and all that internally, and it has made it like quite a significant difference. We still have work to do on some parts of it, usually with the more older clients.
Everybody has like the specialist.
Yeah, no, like it's all about profitability.
Yeah,
that's what it's all about. Like there's no point in measuring sales, or like what the accountants love to measure is staff numbers. And
what's that got to do with anything?
It's ridiculous. So you're and obviously then it's, if you can keep your margins consistent with sales growth, there's no point in increasing the sales by 100% and the margin it has dropped by a third or whatever. Like, you're probably going to be more or less you're not much the better off, for more headaches. So
profitability is what we want.
Yeah.
And would you look at that? Should we be looking at that in our business every month?
Depends. Depends on how. Some businesses and service businesses are quite easy, because really you probably will know, and particularly if you're small and you have a few staff, you know by the sales what the profitability is.
Yeah.
Because there's no mystery. Because
your overheads are the same.
Fixed, and you know what they are. But when you do, I would say in a service business, if you go above 8, 10, you definitely would need monthly figures.
Yeah.
For like trading businesses, like it's all dependent on the nature of the business and if they have stock. And we get it all the time, like where clients have stock or work in progress or whatever it is, and the stock isn't measured accurately and the work in progress is never right. And like you can't, it's pointless doing that because it totally distorts what you're looking at. So what I would say, I wouldn't be overly fixated on the period. Obviously, the more frequent, the better, particularly when you're growing and particularly when you have the money and the resources that you can afford it, like, and that's fine. It's the accuracy of what you're looking at, and to be consistent with what goes into the figures, to make sure that goes in consistently and facilitates comparison, and identify from that, like, well, what are the key metrics that you should be keeping an eye on? In every business, it's margin. Yeah, it's gross margin, net
always.
margin. Yeah.
And with products, I suppose I worked in the drinks industry, and like the margins were tiny sometimes in the drinks industry. So breakages, returns, like anything can really impact the profitability of a business. And I saw that. So those businesses are more difficult to manage.
Yeah, we've businesses that wastage would actually be a big thing, slippage and all that. And so you have to, and it's all about setting up putting the systems in place and the processes that can be measurably, like that can be measured and reliably tracked and all of that, like, and that's what feeds into, I suppose, a good, strong accounting process like that. There's value in.
Yeah.
That there's value in.
That it's right and that it's accurate.
Yeah.
And where you would see people failing, Damien, what do you think it is? Do you see a trend of business? You're like, none of my clients fail. No, but I mean, what would you think is the trend?
I think some people are perfectionists.
Okay.
And I think there's only so far you can go if you're a perfectionist.
Right.
So that would be one thing. I suppose inability, their own, like back to the same thing, their own conservatism and not being, or maybe try something once and it doesn't work out and give up on it.
Yeah.
You have to keep trying and maybe looking at things a little bit different, whether it's like you use the example of marketing, having a marketing person or a marketing resource, and maybe if it doesn't work or you're not happy with, you have to go again. Like, you can't just give up on it. Like, so that probably maybe just not, the bit of drive maybe in some people just isn't there. And that's fine. Everyone's different.
Yeah, some people aren't cut out for it because when I look at the journey for me, right, and I'm probably a good example because I'm similar to you. It's like you start off yourself, you're so passionate about it, you love it. Like when I think of my first clients, oh my God, I would have given blood. I just overdid it. Then you take on your first staff, then you're suddenly responsible for them. Then you're handing over them to your clients. And as it grows, I underestimated the work level. I remember I said this before, when my website went live, I thought the phone was going to ring. I was saying, the phone, is that website? And I rang the girl, is the website live?
Yeah.
The level of work that you have to do in the beginning is equivalent to having a small child. You're up at night, you're working long days. It's thankless. You definitely don't get the money that you're...
And you have to keep believing. That's the thing. You have to keep believing in what you're doing. And that's it. Like,
and you're going to get knocks.
Yeah,
I remember when the first staff member that I really, really put into left. I mean, it was like a breakup. I was I couldn't believe it. Devastated. But at that point, I remember saying to myself, you are going to just make this a multi-million euro company.
I think you need to learn from those
knocks,
and those setbacks. I only really remember one, and funnily enough, it's not my own. It's not when it was my own business. It was an employee, and I was exposed to, an auctioneering partnership, that were very entrepreneurial, and I was as green as grass and very inexperienced and all that. And they just didn't work out. And look, it wasn't my fault, but if I had been stronger and more experienced, that always stuck with me. And it stuck with me from the point of view of thinking what I should have done different in the bit of representation that I played at the time in their engagement.
Okay, so you took
so
that.
I'm always consciously kind of thinking, and it's back to the anticipation type of thing, to try and think, what should you be doing here? What are their expectations? How can you exceed their expectations?
Okay, and that stuck with you.
Yeah.
You were thinking.
Yeah. And I would, comes back to the kind of obsessive thing as well. I would regularly challenge the team, in my own kind of way. They probably don't notice it, but just asking them about something or other, or one of the clients or whatever, and how's this going, or just to see, are they thinking, are they witted when there's something potentially important going on, or an opportunity or that, and to try and obviously these days now with the internet the way it is, and with social media and all that, and with media, I'd regularly, maybe not every day, but definitely every couple of days, I'd be sending things that I'd see onto my clients that they'd like to hear, and keep them informed.
I do that as well.
Keep them in sync.
Or if I hear, somebody's in trouble, I'll tell someone who pretend, because the way I see it, if a company liquidates, it's not just the people that owes them. It has such a knock-on effect on so many businesses.
Yeah.
If they liquidate and there's debt that's owed to them, I've seen it.
Yeah.
And some of them are shocked. But if I feel something and I don't know what it is, if I'm speaking to someone, I sort of get the willies. I say, oh, something wrong there. By the way the staff interact with you, by the change in the tone. And I'll say, let's get all the money in off them and let's not sell it. And then the week later or 2 weeks later, you hear.
Yeah.
Because I know. But like that, if I find something, I'm always sending it on to clients. Say, look, this might interest you, or this, it's important. But it's funny that stayed with you, that you felt.
You see, really, I'm in the business of opportunity. So obviously, compliance is a big part of my business.
Yeah.
But I have another big part that is really all about opportunity.
Yeah.
And seizing opportunity and maximizing opportunity for our clients.
That's brilliant,
And
Damien.
that's really what.
So if you spot something, say that could be good for him or her, I'm going to just link
we do that on
in.
a regular basis.
So
and
unique, isn't it, with accountants?
We've got like great relationships. I hope. I'd like to think it
Yeah.
feels like I do anyway
Yeah.
with our clients, and I keep in touch with lots of our clients, and it's not only the big hitters. I keep in touch with, again, because it was never really about money with me. Like, I didn't have money.
Growing up. So
we were talking about negative equity mortgages in 2014 and houses worth 80 grand. And
you bought them for
grand.
250. Yeah.
So yeah, and the opportunities are not all big opportunities. They can be small opportunities, but it can make a big difference for
the client.
People concerned.
Yeah. And I see that sometimes my smaller clients, like we've some very small, we just do 4 hours a month for them or something. It's all that they need.
Yeah.
You love to see them grown. Love to see them getting opportunities. You feel part of the journey.
Yeah.
You feel like you've had a positive impact on their business. You're helping them along the way. And it's a feel-good factor. And if you care as much as you do, and as I do, they know, the clients know, and it makes your job so fulfilling. It makes such a difference to what we do. And I'm very proud of it, because people often say to me, you work in debt. That's an awful job. I work in money. I get money in for my clients.
Yeah.
I help them grow.
Yeah.
I'm in the relationship business.
Yeah.
They ring me if there's a problem. If there's an issue, they know we have it.
Yeah.
And that's what the business I'm in. And I am so proud of what I do. I think it's the best job in the world, because I know the impact that we can have on our clients. Equally for you, you know the impact that you can have on them, and it makes a world of difference.
Yeah. They always ask me, do you like it? And I used to have to hesitate, and I used to think, well, I actually don't dislike it.
Right.
But that's probably the best they got out, because it is very full on and intense, and that's the way it is.
Yeah.
And I said to you, like, what I found with us is it hasn't gotten any harder than it was for us or for me, say 4 or 5 years ago, than what it is now. And really that's because we've been so fortunate that we've been able to develop the team and develop the overall package and the support structures that we have internally to support the team, to do the client, to do the client facing and the client workload. So
it's good. What's next for you, Damien? What do you think you'd like to achieve with your business?
I never had any set kind of end goal or anything like that. What we're going to try and do is we're going to try and keep progressing, keep trying to find the right type of clients for us that we like working with, that we know we can, really give a good service to, deliver value, that will work, that our staff will be content and happy to work with, because that hasn't always been the case. We have staff don't want to work with difficult clients or clients that are poor payers or stressful.
Whatever.
Don't want it.
Sometimes it's a personality thing. You're trying to match the right team member with the right client.
So we hope to do. We're obviously now in a marketplace where we have big international consolidator type operators and private equity type operators, and I fancy our chances against them, and I'm going to put our money where our mouth is with them. And we are hoping to do a couple of little deals ourselves, and we've a couple in the pipeline that we think are a really good fit for us with the people concerned, their clients. We think it'll be a very harmonious kind of transition, and their teams. So that's what the plan is at this moment in time. We don't have any. I have thought about setting up a legal practice.
Yeah, me too.
And it may be something we may look at. We might marginally kind of dip our toe into other complementary services, but we're not going to do anything too radical. We've enough service lines in the main, and we
but you're all over the world as it is. Like, you're in the UK, you're in
that's obviously working for UK companies or UK business people who have Irish interests, end up in Ireland for one reason or another, and there's like swarms of that
Yeah.
knocking about, and always has been.
Okay.
Always has been. So we're probably unique in that a lot of SME practices that you would see, like outside of the internationally branded practice, probably wouldn't have that sort of exposure to those type of clients. Whereas we do, and obviously, we're competing with the bigger, well-known international brands like that's there, and obviously we want
So
to
you'd
try
like
and
your name
continue
up
to get
there.
market share,
Yeah.
to eat into their market share at a time when everything is so challenging with
You'll
people
do it,
and
Damien.
resourcing and all of that. So we'll see where that takes us.
Yeah.
I don't want to be a practicing accountant when I'm 63. I'm 43 now.
Yeah.
I probably will be a practicing accountant when I'm 53, but hopefully not too long after that.
And what about building up your leadership team underneath you? Do you have like a strong leadership team? Do you still kind of steer the ship a lot yourself? What way does that?
I have very little input into anything day to day.
Okay.
So I have a very experienced team that we've like very carefully selected and identified, and in quite a few cases poached.
Yeah. Okay.
So they do all like the operational stuff, all of the work, all of the scheduling, all of the management of the other team. We don't really have a junior team. We don't really do junior kind of inexperienced people. It just doesn't work for our clients and our model. So we would have, I don't know, we could have maybe 20 10-year plus experienced accountants or auditors, or that like on that side of it. And then the obviously like our tax team, our corporate service team, and then our support team then as well, who are all very unique in their own way as well, and very experienced, who've been like great kind of exposure in other practices of varying sort of profiles and sizes and scales that are adding a lot to the overall
running of the business.
Piece.
So you kind of position yourself now where you've people running the day to day, doing all of that, and you can kind of look at the growth strategy.
I do a bit of sales. I do a lot of recruitment and talent sourcing, and I invest a lot of my time in that, and that's crucial because we have to have the people to funnel the growth, and I find that is a more effective use of my time than
doing
what else I could be, so I don't
or
do any.
In their
I
book
don't
of the
do
lunch
any
breaks.
accounts.
Yeah,
I'm statutory auditor, so I'm involved in the audit side of the practice, but I don't hear the day to day issues. When on the tax side, I'd have a little involvement into some of the advisory and the planning and bit of trickery that might go on with that from time to time. But so and then when we're doing events and things like that, and meeting clients, then when they want to have a chat about something, and again, usually it's opportunistic related, so it's all opportunity. Every day I have lunch with someone different, like somewhere, and it's all anyone that I have lunch with. It's all because they have
an opportunity.
Usually, the biggest problem most of them have is they just don't know what to do with money. That's the biggest problem.
Jeez, I wish I had that problem, Damien.
Well, maybe not too far away.
No, I'm getting there. I'm getting there. So for me, right, I'm thinking, would you advise that as your business grows, get the leadership team in, get out of the nitty gritty, focus on where you can add value for your business, start looking at that.
And get the timing right at that. So do it, do it when you have some bit of breath in your lungs to actually, take the time. And I was probably slow about doing all that. Probably should have done it sooner. Probably then when I did do it, probably first time around, probably had a couple of different iterations at changing our kind of internal management structure and our leadership team, and probably wasn't clear enough at times with, I suppose, what the expectations were in my head and what the outcome should be. So I like to think now we've learned from that, and we're really clear like on the roles, the expectations, and what success looks like, and all of that, like, and that has really kind of worked out very well for us, because in the earlier days, maybe 5-6 years ago, they were all telling me I had a great practice and a great operation, but I just knew something just wasn't
right.
The figures weren't adding up, and I had I always had really good people. I just knew something was off, and there was probably what was off was the culture thing,
Okay.
and just not being clear enough, and I suppose measuring enough on the kind of key things on, on operations, performance, client service. And it took me a while to realize that. And we did make some moves that really then stood to us then thereafter with it again. And it really showed where we were falling down.
Okay. And
initially.
were those moves like metrics, KPIs?
Yeah.
I think that's important.
Yeah.
I think the KPIs...
Not all monetary metrics.
No. But performance. So I'd look at number of phone calls, quality of phone calls, output. I even look at number of emails sent. I look at all that. And then we look at the quality of everything.
Yeah. Communication time, like responses, and just basic and general adherence to
get in
policy,
early, be nice.
Policy.
And and I think what I changed then this year, Damien, right, because I had an old boss. He was he worked for a multinational, he still does, but he's head of acquisition, so he buys up all the businesses, right? So, and he said to me, when I go into a business to buy it, he said, if the MD is still running the show, I won't buy it, because as soon as he or she's gone, it's no good.
Yeah.
So he said to me, set up a business that runs by itself without you.
Well, that's the goal for every aspiring business owner that wants to have a marketable, scalable, sellable business. Yeah.
So I've been working on that. And not even just because I'm thinking of selling, right? This is me, DNA is in it. I'm not. It's nothing to fucking really sell at the minute. But I'm thinking long term, and I'm thinking, if I'm in there doing the day to day, I can't grow this business. I'm not looking at opportunities. My head is down instead of up, looking, where could we go next? Where's the opportunity? What are clients' needs? Asking them for the feedback. What do you need? Is there anything else? Is there any additional services? And then building out that way. And then once I started really focusing on that, giving the staff the extra bit of responsibility, measuring. Everybody got a little bit of extra responsibility, and they rose up to the challenge. It was fantastic.
Well, feedback. Feedback was the key word you said there. So you learn from your feedback, you see, and this is it, and that's something we've always been really good at and strong at is
client feedback.
Yeah, and the following Stuart's inquiry like that would come with that, and taking I suppose assessing it first and assessing its merits, but then taking on board then any, merited observations that's with it. And I have to say it definitely has declined a lot in our practice, as we've, and it's really set by the team now. The team, they know,
they know. And then there's a culture there without Damien being there.
Yeah.
And I was saying, with another guest on, and I was saying to her, I heard last week, one of the team, a new team member started saying, listen, we don't do that here. That's not how we do it. This is how we do it. Because the standard that I set, and I was, mad. If an email went out without a capital letter, I'd be losing sleep over it, right? I'd be going bananas. Why? And thinking then, how many went like that? But that's kind of fed now into the team where they say, this is what's important.
Yeah.
Do not send an email. We have templates. This is what you use. This is what you say. This is how you interact. This is how you give the feedback. And when you hear it kind of being said amongst the team, you think, okay, now we have a culture of this where if I am over in the UK or if I'm here podcasting with you, everything's okay back at home.
The other big thing that is, I suppose, from a satisfying or a fulfillment, as you said, is the clients being complimentary of the team. That happens all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't tell them. Invariably, I would not tell them more than I do tell them.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
I want to keep some of them complacency.
Complacency
gets in.
Yeah.
But I do feel if they need it, if it's someone that does need it, I'll always tell them and make a point.
Yeah.
But so that does happen.
Yeah, it's nice.
On a weekly basis.
It's
So
nice.
Yeah.
And
it happens. It happens across all our divisions. It happens. We've an international team as well.
Yeah.
It happens with them, so that's really, really positive, and that really, I suppose, does, give you the kind of impetus and the motivation just to keep doing
going.
it. Yeah.
Keep going.
doing
Because there's hard days. There's
yeah.
hard days where it feels heavy and it feels a lot. And then there's days where you're like this. Like there's some days I think to myself, why am I doing this? Stress. But then there's other days when I hear things like that, when I get client feedback, when a client recommends me to another client and they say this is the best thing I did for my business, that I say, okay, we have something here that's adding value to businesses. And I love that.
I had a client said to me 2 weeks ago, I didn't think I didn't think this fella liked me like this. And we were trying to work with him on something, and there was the other party and him were chatting, and he was sort of talking about his accountants in probably a bit of a derogatory sort of way. And he said to me, he said, I couldn't believe it. He was saying this because whenever I talk about you, like I'm always just saying like I can't believe like the difference that it's been and your guys, and this is like the type of things that yous have done for me, and you helped me, and this money here and that deal that was over there and all that, like, and I didn't have much involvement with that, but I genuinely didn't think he liked us, like, and just to hear that really just caught me by surprise, like that he was, and he like that had came up in the context of just a conversation he had with someone else, and he didn't like he only just said it kind of flippantly without thinking, like, so it just goes to show you.
Yeah, it's so nice when you're building something. And if you think, Damien, back to when you were started out to now, two things I'll ask you. What would that Damien 11 years ago think of you now, and what advice would you give to him?
Second question first.
Okay.
I would have gone for the juggler far more earlier.
Okay.
I would have set up on my own 3 or 4 years earlier.
Yeah.
I would have taken on some good people who I met who I was just petrified to take on because of
the cost. I know.
I would have done that sooner. I don't feel I am making the same mistakes now from a conservative point of view. I have to be careful now I don't make mistakes with life being in a different position in life now, and life circumstances, that the complacency around decision making and that we don't really walk into something that that's problematic.
Be too much risky.
That's a drain on everything. I don't think I've changed at all.
Okay. No, you're still, when I met you, I think 5 years ago, Damien, you're the same.
Yeah. It's still very much the same kind of modus operandi, like from the work perspective and from the client perspective and all of that. I managed to go in 2023. I went on a 2-week holiday for the first time. Yeah. So I was never away for more than a week in my life prior to 2023. So I went on
What was that like?
Great.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm going on a 12-day holiday in June and a 2-week holiday in August this year. So,
and do you work when you're away?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, me too.
Yeah. I work. I have to work every day, check emails, and because my email account is just the land of opportunity. I have to.
I love that. It's the land of opportunity.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah. So it doesn't actually feel like work, and my family are used to kind of the way I have to kind of operate like that, so they don't know
any different.
They don't know any different, and it doesn't really hinder us too much. And so no, I don't think there's any, and there's no great kind of desire. I don't think I'm going to change it.
Do you think you'd be proud? Do you think you've achieved more than you thought you would?
Yes, way more. Never. Okay. I thought when I was 55, I'd have an office with 7 or 8 accountants in it and €1 million fee income. And I would have been as happy as Larry.
Okay.
If you had said that to me. I would have bit your 2 arms off you.
Really?
Yeah, I would have.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how many staff have you got? I won't ask your turnover.
I've got 45 as of now. Yeah. And
growing.
And growing. Yeah. And if we do one, we're looking at one kind of significant enough acquisition for us. If we do that, I think we'll be a top 20. I think we'll be number 19 or number 20 in the country. And we'd be the only founder managed top 20.
Ever?
Yeah. No, well,
No,
not ever, but now.
at the moment.
But now, yeah, because there's been such a influx of, as I say, private equity and consolidator type income, getting into Irish accountancy practice.
So you'll be in the top 20.
Top 20, I think, yeah, thereabouts. Yeah.
Jeez, that's good going. And how many years? 11?
11, yeah.
So you're setting the pace for me now, and I'm trying to catch up, and it's like, no, that's really good, Damien. You should be so proud of that. Is there anything else you want to share with the listeners before we wrap it up?
Tax.
Yeah,
tax. The revenue have been toothless since COVID until about 18 months or so ago. But certainly in our office, we do see a huge kind of uplift in their
aggressiveness,
in their monitoring and enforcement and interventions and all of that. Like a lot of misunderstandings and kind of tax issues everywhere you go. There is, so never underestimate tax, and particularly if your business isn't very profitable and you're getting your salary and that's it. Like, it's a fairly low risk at that. But if you do start to make money, tax and get on top of your tax and get on top of your wealth management, and do that early. Don't let money accumulate and be flippant or
leave money sitting there.
Yeah, you need to be thinking like structurally and what you're going to do with it, and safeguarding that money and safeguarding, not having all your eggs in the one basket and that type of thing. And like that can even be like I've saw loads of cases of sole trader businesses turning over €1 million with a 250 grand profit. They should be companies.
Yeah.
They should be companies, and they just grew, and the accountant's not kind of asleep at the wheel, like, and that
same thing. I wasn't advised.
So that's at a basic kind of level.
But as you start to grow and build wealth,
and you see all sorts of kind of things that, when you think about it, don't really make sense. So tax and wealth, get on top of those.
And if somebody wants to reach out to you directly, Damien, where will they get you?
Email, call the office.
The land of opportunity. I am going to use that. I'm going to just use that. The land of opportunity. So LinkedIn, email. Yeah, they'll find you. Website.
Yeah, easy to find.
They'll get you on, because on the tax, I just started to make money. Like, if you don't have a background like me, people who tell you you don't know what you do, like, you leave it
We'll
there.
talk to anyone. So we'll always, it doesn't matter. They don't have to be a big roller or anything like that. Like, always happy. We'll try and make time, and it generally doesn't take long to kind of see the the opportunities for them, or the value adds for them, or what I think they should do. I practice what I preach. So anything that I would say to a client, it's always what I would do myself. And that's a big thing with our kind of advisory style. Like, we try to be as practical, simple, as possible, like, to try and
get people to understand. And would you go into businesses, Damien, in an advisory role sometimes, if someone just wants to come to you and say, look, I have an accountant, but
we work with the accountants.
Okay, brilliant. Brilliant. So they might get just a second opinion off you to say, look, what do you think of this? Brilliant.
So we like everywhere, we've lots of different, and likewise we would have clients that we would work with the Big Four with as well, where we do a certain amount of their work and they take over and do some of it. Could be the international stuff and some of the international planning, or it could be the audit and we're doing the payroll or whatever it may be, something like that. Like, so there's no,
So the door is open
for everything.
The door is open. Brilliant. Damien, thank you so much. And I'm always watching you, always anyway, because you help me so much, and you're kind of guiding me and putting a light for, look, I can do it too if you can do it. So thank you.
Thanks, Sharon.
Thank you so much for listening to our podcast. If you did enjoy that, please subscribe on whatever platform you are listening.